Welcome, welcome to this first ever guest house discussion. I'm really glad that everybody had the time today and are choosing to use their time today to be in this. My name is Yohance. I'm a 22-year-old semi-professional dancer, and I'm gonna be the host for this Zoom. If I sound quirky or weird, that's just naturally who I am, so excuse me. But basically, this Zoom call is going to be focusing on panelists in the Toronto community in various aspects about what's been going on in the world that most of us know of. A lot of the subjects are going to be covering, yes, racism and anti-Blackness, but the larger situation that's around what's going on, which is the Black identity and the Black diaspora. Canada identifies itself as a multicultural nation state that respects all cultures and religions for people who want to become citizens. However, we cannot continue to be ignorant to the fact that racial inequality is prevalent in Canada's history. The aim of this is to educate and listen to how, where, and what it is, and to answer further questions on these topics that are touching us today. This is not meant to be an event done today and gone tomorrow, but an invitation for us in our own homes and our communities to continue these discussions so that we can make for a future full of love and one that we can be much happier to bring our kids into compared to the one that we have today. Before we begin with the official talks from the panelists, I want to say thank you to our ancestors that brought us to this point, because although Black Lives Matter is a movement that was started recently, we would not be here today without those of us who did partake in the civil rights protest all the time then. For the overview of how this call is going to run is we're going to be starting around now, and we're basically going to go to around 9:30, a hard cutoff at 10. Hopefully we can delve into deeper topics. That's why we left time open until then. But how it's going to go is that panelists are going to speak on a topic. I will be the one who transitions between speakers. It'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Towards the end, we will have an open discussion for the panelists to talk about questions that many of you sent in to us to a Google document. And then if we have time, even after that, we want to open up the discussion to those of us in the chat right now to talk about any other questions that we might have. Before I finally give it in, I know this is a lot of me talking, but this call is based for the Toronto community, more so the Canadian community at large. But in Toronto, some of you might have heard that there have been recent sexual allegations against a Toronto dance studio, and we wanted to express our deepest condolences to the victim, and just state that we believe you and we support you 100%, and that the Toronto dance community does not stand for sexual assault anywhere. The loving Ming Bo Lam has created an abundance of local resources for survivors of sexual assault and harassment at her website, which will be linked in our Instagram bio. As the investigation is still ongoing, we're unable to disclose the name due to issues such as defamation of character and slander, but do not let that be mistaken for us siding or in any way wanting to associate ourselves with this person, okay? Sexual assault and harassment is real, and the dance community and Toronto community does not stand for that in any such way. All right, to get started, we wanted to give the floor to a huge leader within the Toronto dance community. He's a leader of a male dance group called the Vibe Men. He's going to be speaking on his experience of being in the entertainment industry and what it means to be Black for him and everything that he has done. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome George Jones Jr.
Yep. Yes. Thanks for having me. Thank you for this platform and this forum for the city and for whoever else. I think there's more people than just from this city in this room. So I think it's great that we all come together. I think it's great that the world is kind of coming together. It's so disheartening that it has to be from tragedy most of the time, but it's like it's a beautiful thing to see. I'm in a place where I've never felt like this before in my life. You know what I mean? Like I was born in the 80s, grew up in the 90s, and lived my adult life through like the 2000s. So it's like always reading about civil rights and the civil rights battle and all the stuff from history and slavery and all that stuff that, you know, our parents teach us, you know what I mean? And I don't know how it is in white households, but as a Black man and as a Black person coming from America, that's the other thing most people in this room remember is I'm from the States. So my experience is not the Canadian Black experience. And being here for the amount of time that I have, I'm getting to see the Canadian Black experience, and I'm getting to see where they compare and where they contrast. But where I'm from, it's just like, it's natural for your family. You come home from school doing history, American history, your family, your elders are giving you Black history. Your elders, your grandparents, your parents are telling you what your grandparent went through, what it was like for them, how we have to behave and different traditions and stereotypes that are all built into us all. It's so crazy because this is all about like the systematicness of it all. You know what I mean? Where it's in our DNA to tell our children, you got to watch out for this, you got to watch out for that. As a Black person, you got to, when you go outside, you got to be aware of this. I'm telling my daughter this today as it's skating down. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
in our DNA to prepare our youth for what we have been through and what we have seen come through us. And I think that's one of the things that continues to let racism or this systemic racism stay above us, is because the knowledge of those little simple facts that are what change our dynamic as youth. I mean, so right now for me, I'm so sad, and it's making me so angry. It's making me so angry. I've never felt like this is what I stand for. I never knew what, like, you know what I mean? I know what I stand for.
Right.
Person, I see light. When I see people, I see light. I see your potential. I see your goodness. I see the greatness about you. No matter what color you are, no matter what creed you are, no matter what your religion is, I see the positivity of you, and I see how you can mold it, how you do mold it, how you use it, how you don't use it. That's how I see people. But to be in this place right now where people don't understand that people are dying for no reason. When we're dying for no reason. And when other people are dying, when people of other races are dying, we are standing there with you. We are standing there saying, dang, that mass shooting shouldn't have happened. We are with you. We're not the race that is being like, you are this, you are that. We fight for equality. We don't fight for dominance. And that's what you got to see. People are fighting for dominance, and people are fighting for equality. And at the end of the day, it's about educating. I'm not one of those people that are like, you know, don't ask me. I've always been the only Black person in my situation. I've been from like kindergarten to 12th grade. I was one of the only Black people in my class. And I would go from my neighborhood into the private school, and then I would come back to my neighborhood, and that's how my life was. So I grew out of the color thing, and I also grew out of the, why are they asking me these questions? Because my friends would ask me, they'd be like, why do you do this? Why do you do that? What's this about? I'm like, ask me so I can tell you, so I can give you the knowledge that you need to understand about me as a Black person, so that we can coexist, so that we can grow, so that we can elevate as people. So I'm in the place where I'm like, I'm not your Black History Almanac, but I'll be like, yo, go check this out so you understand that Black people are still being enslaved around this world. Go watch this so you understand that Black men have it hard, but Black women probably have it 10 times harder, because Black men are taken from Black women every day, and Black women have to take up the reins, go to work, take care of their children, and still be beautiful and not exude angry or whatever people may think of them. You know what I mean? And I think that's the conversations we need to be having. We need to be having these conversations where we express our differences in life so that we can understand and be empathetic and be able to stand next to somebody and fight for their cause, because that person is just like you, no matter what, you know what I mean? It's so like heart-wrenching right now. And it's so heart-wrenching even more having Black children. You know what I mean? Like looking at my children, knowing that my sons, even though they are mixed race, they're gonna have to deal with a whole nother kind of racism. They're gonna not be too Black or not be white enough or all that. There's so many different layers and there's so many different circumstances that many different people deal with, but we gotta deal with it together, man. We gotta deal with it together. If your people die, it's like our people die. If our people die, it's like your people die. We gotta stand together and we gotta change the way that we look at each other, because of course everybody's different. Nobody's the same, but we bleed the same, we die the same. So we got to stand together when people are dying for no reason. And we can't stand there and be like, all lives matter. Yeah, okay, a couple years ago, I'm Mr. I go around the world, I want to know your culture, all lives matter. A couple years ago, I was like, all right, all lives matter, I get it. Right now, I'm like, F that. Black lives matter. Black lives matter because Black lives are being lost at a rapid pace. Black lives continue to be lost. They've been lost for so long. Not saying no other lives have been lost, but our lives are being lost and nobody cares. And that's what it feels like to everyone. I've been crying for a week now because it feels like nobody cares. And I'm crying in the arms of my wife, who I know cares, who I know loves me. And you still feel alone. You feel like no one's gonna stand there and fight for us. We can fight for us, but if the people that hold power aren't fighting for us, it's like we're destined to lose. You know what I mean? And as far as the industry is just like the world, man. The industry is just like the world, but it's times 10 because it's about perfection. It's the commercial industry. It's about perfection. It's about being the epitome of what people think. Like if you get cast as that Black person, they look at you as you're that Black person that everyone should see. If Black, white, whatever, if you get cast, that's what you're being cast for. Something that sells across the world, and you got to sell that. And you can go into an audition and you'll be typecast immediately. They'll be like Black guys over here, white guys over here, Asian guys over here, and you go where you go and you do what you do, and they know they're gonna hire 2 Black guys and 2 white guys and maybe an Asian guy and maybe an ethnically ambiguous guy, but that's the way it is. And I'm not saying it's right, but you know, and you know, in some situations, like you sign on for things, but that is also a result of the way the world is, because everything's not all together. It's like that in movies, it's like that in music, it's like that in dance. Everything has been so separate that it's just like, that's how people see it. That's how people see it. They're like, let me get 2 Black guys, let me get 2 white guys. That doesn't go together. You know what I mean? It is what it is. And you feel it, and it's like, am I gonna work or am I gonna not work? When it comes to teaching, it's hard, man. It's hard being a hip hop teacher and being like fundamentally sound. Although my choreography does not show my fundamentals and what I've trained in and training in New York and training in the clubs and dancing with people. That's not how I move right now, but I'm fundamentally sound, and it's hard to not get a job to somebody else just because somebody else may be a different color, a different ethnicity, or you know what I mean? And it is what it is. But there are companies that recognize your value, and there are companies that aren't. There are companies that are only about their money, and then there's companies that are about their money and quality and authenticity and amount of knowledge. And you know what I mean? It depends when you're talking about teaching, you know what I mean? You got to look when it comes to conventions, you got to look at the conventions and you got to be like, how many Black people are on convention? You know what I mean? And that's everywhere. Like there's moments where I know I'm the token Black guy on this job, on this gig, on this movie, on this faculty. There's times when I know that. But me being that, I'm going to educate you, and I'm going to educate you in a way that lets you know I have the information. It comes from a raw place, and I can give it to you so that you can receive it, whether you're in Ohio, whether you're in Japan, whether you're in South America, especially with dance. The great thing about dance and the great thing about in the Toronto scene is the diversity. America is generations deep of immigrants. What I find about Toronto is like first, second generation, like immigration right now. So the culture is so raw. It still feels like when you go have Jamaican, when you go have Indian, when you go have Thai food, when you see people, they rep their city, they rep their culture. That's the culture. The culture of America is we're American, we're Black. Where my grandmother used to say, I don't know anybody from Africa. Old country lady from the South, you know what I mean? So it's a difference. It's a difference from Canada to America. But it's with dance transcends even language, yo. You go to another country, you're teaching on rhythm. You're teaching on sounds. You're teaching if you don't speak the language. And I think that's what's good about us. I think that's what dance is bringing me in this time. Dance in this time right now is bringing me light. The people I get to dance with right now, you know, we don't all feel good. But when we come together, like when we come together in this room right now, even if it's on Zoom, I go, hey, can y'all unmute for a second so I can receive some love, so I can feel your love, so I can give your energy. Dance is a outlet. It's a window to another dimension. And I pray that everybody on here, especially my people who are creators, who are leaders, who are choreographers, who are teachers, who have companies, who run training programs, continue to create. This is our moment. This is the moment to create change in yourself, in your artistry, and in the people that follow you. This is our moment to build. And it sucks that so much stuff is going on right now. We got bees, we got a virus, we got this, we got that. But that needs to mold us. If you don't feel like dancing, get up and dance in a way you've never danced before. Move in a way you've never moved before. And that's what I'm trying to do so that I can release this anger, this feeling, this angst. I'm trying to make moves to help the cause, but I'm also trying to work on myself even as a person, the way I deal with people, the way I interact with people, the way I take in other people's cultures, you know what I mean? It's so much right now, and I'm talking so fast, but I feel like I gotta go. And my daughter's right here like,
No, you still got like 5 more minutes. You can keep going if you have anything else left on your heart.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's just, I think what the beautiful thing for me to see and what lets me know that I'm older is that I see a generation below, a generation coming up right now that is so different than me and that can see the change. Like I came up in a time where it was talking about change, and you know, you'd always see the Martin Luther King clip, and you know, I had white friends and they would come into my neighborhood, and you know, but now it's a generation that everybody's like, hell no, this got to change now, and this is the time. It feels good to be in a time that feels like there's a change that needs to happen right now. And it feels good to be in the presence of young energy that feels like we not stepping back. And in not stepping back, I urge everybody to be safe because everything is boiling over. Even me. And like I got into an argument the other night in my studio's parking lot. I couldn't see him. He couldn't see me. It was dark. He was talking loud. I said, hey, bro, you talking kind of loud? He went off. I went off. We kind of separated. I went home. The next day, saw him outside. He was like, yo, was that you outside last night? I was like, yep. He was like, what was that about? I was like, man, I don't even know, dog. I don't even know. He was like, I thought you were a white guy. I was like, I thought you was a white guy. We all got to chill out. We all got to, with this angst, we got to take a breath. We got to take a breath. We got to find the information. It's hard to find. It's hard to find as a Black person, y'all. I don't know where half this stuff is. Black Lives Matter. It don't mean I know where it's at. You know what I mean? So we all got to do the research, and we all just got to we all got to stick together, man, and realize that we should be in it together. There are going to be some crazy folks out here. And, you know, it's not about Thank you. It's not about turning the other cheek. We turn the other cheek. I think that's how so many people feel right now. We've been turning the other cheek. We stay turning the other cheek. We done turned the other cheek into the ground, and now we dead. You know what I mean? It's not about that. It's about standing our ground now. We're standing up. And I appreciate everybody that's truly standing with us. It doesn't mean you're posting. It doesn't mean you're saying something. But if you're truly standing with us, if your heart is right, I think those people know that. You know, I know a lot of people might be feeling guilt and this and that. But if your heart has been that forever, you shouldn't feel no guilt. You shouldn't feel like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that. You should just go do it. There shouldn't be any feeling if your heart has always been what you're saying you are. You know what I mean? And so I just continue to urge people to, like, you know, reach out to one another, like, make sure we're all okay. I've been receiving so many messages and so many, so much energy, and it's appreciated. And I hope I'm sending it back out there. You know, we all, like, everybody is dealing with so much right now. You know what I mean? So coming together is the best thing I think we can do. 6 feet apart, people. Okay, everybody out here in these streets, 2 feet apart. It's a plan. They like, get them out there. They all gonna catch the vid and die. Be careful, y'all. Be careful out here. Do your protests and stuff, but be careful. Take care of yourself. That's all I got, you guys. Thank you for giving me the platform to speak. I hope you guys hear where I'm coming from, because I'm talking about me. I'm not talking about anybody else. We have to realize that every individual, just like every individual in the world lives a different life, every Black person lives a different life, experiences different racism. It's never the same. It's never the same. So you gotta approach it that way. It's not the same, so I can't approach each person the same. And that's all I got. I'm done.
Well, thank you so much, George, for being here and talking on this. Your words to me, I can speak for myself, definitely are giving me perspective on where I am in this, especially as a Black person. You know, it's still different for each of us dealing with this difficult time. So thank you for speaking on it. Before we go to Amanda, I just want to make sure that everybody here can hear. I hope everybody is good. But yeah, the next person that we're gonna bring up forward is also a dancer. She's a choreographer, teacher, and artist, and who I see as a very strong leader within the Toronto dance scene. I'm not gonna speak too much because she can speak for herself. So I'm going to give the platform to Amanda Mae Wilson.
Hello, can everybody hear me okay? Yeah, okay, awesome. Hi everyone. We are, like George said, coming together under very, very overwhelming circumstances. I feel for everyone Black in here, especially. I feel like this time has affected us emotionally in a way that we haven't really seen before. I don't know if you guys feel that energy, but I definitely do. Perhaps it's the circumstance of us being home and only looking at our phones. Perhaps it's the call out culture that we so heavily are relying on right now to enforce the importance of solidarity. I feel very much overwhelmed. So I just wanted to start out by saying that I'm holding us all up in prayer right now. And for everyone that this is coming across as new information to, welcome. Happy to have you here. And with that being said, I just want to speak on Black feminism and the way that I relate. I'm going to try my best to kind of like stay on topic because this is I feel like the idea of intersectional identity definitely plays a large role in how justice is pushed for and how it is encouraged to be achieved. George kind of touched on it a bit. I think that the Black woman is often forgotten about in a lot of conversation. When on the flip side, we are often at the forefront of movement. If we're talking about just feminism alone, for example, the Me Too movement was started by a Black woman. We talk about the BLM movement, although the catalyst was the death of a Black man, several Black men. The BLM movement was started by 2 Black women. And a lot of the time, because Black men are literally hunted down, Black women are often on the front lines of your protests and your rallies and your open discussions, your panels, your so on and so forth. Not to excuse that Black men are also doing a ton of work, but it is a pattern that finds itself in this fight quite often. As some of you may or may not know, I work predominantly in TV and film. I think stereotypes, the way that Black women are perceived, play a large role in how effective we are in our daily lives and in this fight. I think a major archetype that we found ourselves in is the angry Black woman archetype. That visual, that narrative seems to haunt us all the time. I think that when a man is vocal, he is often praised for being assertive. He is praised for being, for taking control, for holding down his power. And often when a woman of any ethnicity speaks up, it's usually invalidated through the argument of emotion. Now, when you are a Black person, that argument remains. So imagine being a Black woman and how the talk of emotion playing a negative role in your plight and your concerns can affect you. Okay, so we all know angry Black woman, you find it on TV, you find it in every show. It's often, thank God for like Grey's Anatomy and Scandal and How to Get Away with Murder, because Shonda Rhimes definitely, puts on for Black women. She shows very strong, full-bodied characters that are multifaceted, so that we are not only seeing a Black woman in through one lens. I think that type of representation is in itself a form of justice, because it opens up the world's eyes, especially when these shows, when they're getting the ratings and they're going season after season. It works in teaching people that we are full humans, full beings, with multiple emotions and multiple sides, and we can be strong, but we could be sensitive. We could be assertive and we could be resilient, but we're also soft and delicate. And that's, I think, something that for those of us who are in leadership positions, we need to focus on advocating for, creating those opportunities for our stories to be told in a way that is all-encompassing. We have other stereotypes, such as the loud, outspoken Black best friend. You know, I think I personally grew up being or seeing, on TV a lot of the time, unless I was watching a show that was predominantly based on Black characters. Quite often, the only role that I would see people playing, Black women playing, is the Black best friend. The reason why that is damaging is because it doesn't really allow us the room to exist outside of being the voice of reason. And although that is a wonderful thing to be portrayed as, it is often one-sided, and a lot of these scripts are written through the lens of people on the receiving end of this support, i.e. white people. I honestly grew up not knowing that there were other roles that I could play because of this stereotype being enforced so strongly. We are so used to seeing the slave. You know, there are many, many more stereotypes. The suffering romantic, you know, the Black woman that believes in love and vouches for love and is going through life, and she meets the man of her dreams and he breaks her heart before he finds his life and gets back to her, you know, and she always takes him back. That's the happy ending, is that she had to suffer, but she got what she wanted, but she had to suffer for it. I think this kind of brings me into my next point of how these characters that we often see suffering, whether it be as the suffering romantic, the suffering slave, the suffering best friend that doesn't get any shine, or the suffering Black woman in the workplace or in the scene doing her thing and not being acknowledged for what she's offering. It lends itself to the separation of Black women as according to skin tone. I won't spend too much time on shadeism or colorism, but I will. In terms of this, I think it is important, especially for those of us in the entertainment industry, which we all are to some capacity. The way that the Black community specifically has been taught through colonialism to glorify those who are of lighter complexion has created a very bubbled and narrow way of thinking. We often opt out of ourselves. I will say that. We often opt out of ourselves because we aren't really taught to believe that there are opportunities available for us to succeed. Those opportunities are usually given to white women first, and then there's a whole tier system, right? And then even within our own community, there is a tier system based on skin tone. I think that that is very problematic. It is problematic because what happens is that when you're casting, on top of just race working against you, if you are darker, you are too Black for a role. I personally have, when there was a time where like I'd have my fro out all the time. Right now, I'm trying to get some hang time, so I'm keeping it in the protective styles, okay? We'll get into colloquialisms later, but what I would wear my fro, and I never thought twice about my pride. Never thought twice about it. I was like, my hair grows like this. My hair is way too thick. I have way too much of it for me to be trying to straighten it all the time or put it in something or do whatever with it. I'm gonna just let it do its thing. And there are many jobs, many, many jobs where I promise you, and I say it with not an arrogant bone in my body, I was the best fit for, that I did not get because I was too ethnic, because I was too Black, because on top of my skin tone, I was not, I wasn't the lighter complexion girl. I didn't have the soft, pretty features, and I didn't have the curly, springy afro that made me seem soft and likable and approachable. I was deemed too strong, too forward, too direct, too much. This happens to Black women all the time. I think that I personally, I just worked on a production. Well, none of us just worked on anything, but I just worked on, last year, I was very fortunate enough to work on a production that some of you may know as Grand Army. And we were so fortunate to, yes, but now, oh, we're getting some words here. Yes, I was very fortunate to work alongside Tanisha Scott. I was assisting her on this project, and we were able to hire, I think it was a cast of 12 Black women to play a step team. Now, there were many things involved in this project that just kind of brought light to how not often this happens, you know, how rare it is to walk into a rehearsal setting and see only Black girls. And I remember one of our first days, we were just working on some choreography, and Jordan Washington, who is from here, and he lives in New York now. He was helping us with some of like the stepping techniques and the choreography, and he said, "Wow, it just smells like shea butter, coconut oil, and all kinds of hair products in here." Okay, and we were all like, "This is so much fun! This is great! Like, woo! We're all here. This feels so good." All shades, all sizes, all body types, all heights, all hair textures, all hairstyles, because they were welcoming all forms of what we are. And we were glorified for that. And it just made me so sad to see how rare it was to experience something like that, and how groundbreaking it will be when it's released. Because Black girls do not get to see themselves on TV, and especially not on this wide spectrum. So when you are in those positions of leadership and you're making those negotiations and you're fighting with casting, and you know, agents are trying to pitch to you, you know, the same build, the same height, the same look, when you know that there's more variety out there, you gotta be resilient. You have to be resilient, because Black girls deserve to see themselves on screen, and they deserve to believe that there is opportunity for them. And even if they don't wish to go down that route, it is important that they know that their stories are not just theirs, that there is relationship amongst several Black women. There's relationship amongst several women. It is important, because I am tired of watching movies and reading books and watching TV shows and not relating, and feeling isolated in how I feel, feeling ostracized by TV. We have no time for that. I also stress and encourage you guys that when there is Black film out there, when you know, strong, well-written Black TV shows come out, hell, whether you like it or not, support them so that they can continue to run. You know, not everybody is gonna be the Issa Rae. Not everybody is gonna be Oprah Winfrey. Not everybody is gonna be, you know, like the tops of the tops of the tops. But there is a lot of substance there in between, you know, from left to right, from up to down. There is so much in the midst. And I think right now is the perfect time for us to begin encouraging a more well-rounded perspective, honoring Black stories, honoring Black women as it pertains to how we participate in television and film. I think my next thing that I would like to touch on is colloquialisms and slang. Okay, how we interact with each other and how we connect, and how this also relates to Black feminism. Okay, to Blackness, Black women. Man, where do we even start? In a city like Toronto, we are so fortunate to have such a multicultural community, especially within dance. You know, we are so fortunate to have you know, there's such a full perspective in relation to other communities, especially here in Canada. Okay. You know, I think about cities like Vancouver. I think about cities like Edmonton. I think, you know, I think about how Toronto, Montreal, like we are so fortunate on this east side to have as much access as we do. But unfortunately, the way that and this is specifically relating to non-Black people of color and white people, I think that the way that we take advantage of this access that we have so much of is through the misuse of slang and cultural appropriation. I believe that there are a lot of people who, unfortunately, and I'm not justifying anything, anybody who knows me knows I am all in favor of the call out, okay? But I think that, unfortunately, there are a lot of people who operate from a stance of privilege and who actually have been living in a bubble. And so when they experience things of our culture, especially you know, the West Indian culture, the Jamaican culture that finds itself present in all Toronto communities, I think that you know, people think it's okay to go up to their homie and say wagwan. People think it's okay to go up to their homie and put their hand on their head and say, "Ooh, girl." People think it's so okay to ask me, okay, to ask me, you know, details about myself that just aren't any of their business, because they just simply aren't held accountable. The reason why they aren't held accountable is because we don't hold ourselves accountable. We do not protect our culture the way that we should. We are not stewards. We are not pillars in the way that we need to be. I, myself included, will take full responsibility for all of the instances I have found myself in thinking that if I said something, I was jeopardizing an opportunity. And that was more important than me making sure that people knew how to respect me. That is problematic. That's the word of the day. Hashtag problematic. Hold that. Okay? Everybody say hashtag problematic. Unmute yourselves. Oh, okay.
Hashtag. Oh.
Hashtag.
Hashtag.
Even sure what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Now mute yourself. Mute yourself. Mute yourself. Okay.
I'm late then.
Now, okay. It is problematic because, you know, we love thinking about romance and love and saying, you know, treat a person how they want to be treated, or how you want to be treated, you know. We love to look at things frivolously. It's so easy for us to observe things outside of our own experience and say, oh, well, that's wrong. I don't really like that. But because it's far removed, or because it's in a state of fantasy, or because it's on TV, it's easy to acknowledge, but not easy enough to act on. And so it becomes a very daunting task to be in that room with your employer, or to be in that audition next to this girl or guy, or to be at this rehearsal and you know, people are dancing to Beanie Man and they don't know what he's saying. You know, it's easy. It's oh Lord, let me just find the words before I get hot. I think that we just don't stand up enough. Now, I recently found myself, so on the topic of cultural appropriation, and I won't stay here for too long, I recently found myself in a predicament where I observed a set at a fever and it was not representative of any type of soca or carnival culture. It was very much offensive that, to me. But what was offensive was not the piece. And I think that when it hit social media, a lot of people were focused on the substance of the choreography, and that is not an issue. However, I think there was something more to be said about the people who were involved in the piece, specifically the Black men. I believe that we do ourselves a great disservice by involving ourselves and occupying space in environments that do not serve us, and making ourselves feel like we are obliged to conduct ourselves, in a way that is politically correct or mindful of the choreographer's needs or this person's desires. And what you're doing is you're creating a lot of room for people to decide where they want to place you. And when you allow them that room, that perpetuates the idea that Black people cannot fight for justice in these spaces, and then it becomes a shock anytime the one person who has the guts to do so speaks up, and then it works against them. Okay, it works against them. It makes it easier for them to be vilified because they do not have the support from their own community. I spoke out openly about my disdain for the men that were involved, and I had more Black people explain to me, or express to me, I should say, how I was not uplifting my own. Now, that is a whole other conversation, okay? And we may or may not get there today. But I stood my ground and I said, one, a public display, it warrants a public response. That is one. And two, we mustn't enable each other. When we enable those who do not understand the root of what they're taking from us, again, we allow them the space to decide or to think that they can decide and dictate where we occupy space. And that works against our plight, that works against our justice, and it honestly makes it easier for people not to take us seriously when we do have pressing concerns, more urgent concerns. It makes it harder to fight for solidarity because that is exactly why our concerns come as a surprise. It's because we are not actively living out as an example and thus not holding anybody around us accountable. And in a place like Toronto, where everybody wants to think that they're Jamaican or from any country in Africa, from Ghana or whatever, I can name them all, but we're not going to get into that. Like, if that is the dynamic that exists in our city of people just taking it on and thinking if they can say it or if they can learn it a little bit, then they're down, we're losing. We're losing before we've even tried, okay? The last thing that I will say is, accountability within this dance community is important. Solidarity is important. If you see a Black person building, support them. I think Black people like to, we like to devalue each other and think because we haven't built anything yet that there's nothing to be built. That shows itself in so many things, right? How many of my Black people in here have a trust fund? How many of us have good credit? How many of us have, assets that are in our names that were left from our great grandparents and ancestors, and that was passed down? You know what I'm saying? It is not a somebody say something. I wasn't sure. Anyway, it's not an occasion that we see very often. At least it is not in the foundation of our community. The reason why I mentioned this is because a lot of other cultures, they got years and years in the game. But unfortunately for us, beginning from slavery and that's not just slavery in America, slavery here as well. From the beginning of our ancestors being brought to the islands, okay, because they're slaves there too. Our way of thinking surrounded two things: productivity and compliance. It did not lend itself towards connection, did not lend itself towards affection, did not lend itself towards generational stability, generational wealth. It was actually a liability for us to exhibit those things, because if I had a child and my child was focused on loving me, and I was focused on loving my child, one, the detachment when they were ripped from me, from my slave owner, would have been way too detrimental and way too compromising. So, you know, you have a child, right? You give birth to one, and you got to be comfortable with the fact that they could be taken from you at any moment, that you could be taken from them at any moment, because those are the times that we were living in. So what you taught them was how to follow directions. Okay, you taught them how to comply. You taught them how to listen. Yes, Masa, you taught them. Okay, and then you taught them how to work, so that no matter where they were seen as an asset, although they were being gravely taken advantage of. Okay, these things, this ideology, this pattern found itself in our psyche, and it's trailed and trailed and trailed. We do not connect with each other. We compete against each other, and we're clawing our way at the expense of, clawing our way to the top at the expense of one another, and we don't know how to incur wealth. We don't know how to incur ownership, and we don't know how to incur mental and emotional health in our families. Okay, so I stress, okay, it starts from within. With all of that being said, it starts from within. We need to break generational curses so that we can be more open to love, more open to coexistence, more open to sharing our ideas with each other, exchanging them within our communities, and building our communities from the ground up. It is from that we can find ways to create new systems and walk into new spaces and implement them. And then from there, we can begin to preach the good gospel and tell all the people the good news about how Black people are the shit. And you know, we've been out here and we got something for y'all. And you know, instead of you taking it from us, we exchanged a little bit of respect. We exchanged a little bit of finance. We exchanged, you know, a little bit of love. And that's how we start to uplift each other up. Do not forget about Black women in that process. Do not forget about yourself, your integrity in that process. And I just, you know, stress and encourage everyone to think about these things as they navigate their way through TV, through film, through performance, through travel, and through simple conversation, requesting the allyship of the people around you who do not share your experience. That is all I have for today. Thank you so much.
I just wanted to say thank you, Amanda. Truly, I can see the messages of everybody in the chat also saying thank you. So thank you a lot. Before we quickly move on, I wanted to say that I was one of the people in the fever piece that you had called out. And initially I was upset. I'm like, I don't understand what I did wrong, you know? This doesn't make any sense. However, let me not just, you know, strictly come out of a space of anger. Let me see what it is my sister is trying to tell me rather than, you know, act reactionary. And I definitely do want to say thank you because there were things that I wasn't looking at in this situation. And I think as Black people, we expect that because we are Black, we can do no wrong. You know, we're living the experience. This is our lives. But we most definitely need to hold each other accountable. Because nobody wants best for us like our own people do. So I wanted to say thank you. To everybody in the chat, This is going wonderful. I am so happy that everybody is so engaged and learning so much. What I do want to say is that because so many of you guys came out, and thank you for that, I have just messaged in the chat that due to the capacity, we're actually going to restart this so we can have more people come in. I am so happy that so many of you guys have been able to come and listen in, and we want to continue this going by making a chat where more people are capable of coming in.